Hello everyone, I'm here today to talk to you about City of Brass. City of Brass is a roguelite kind of randomized dungeon crawler set in a Arabian Nights sort of theme. The intro gives a very Aladdin-esque with the genies and the cities coming out of the sand. If you're into Aladdin, just buy the game already. We don't have to worry about that. For everybody else, let's see if this is a game that's any fun. Is it worth it? Well, first off, I would say that the graphics are looking quite sharp. They look polished and have character. If you're into the Arabic style, what do we call it? Arabic, more Arabian Nights style, this kind of fantastical land that never really exists. If you're into that, if you're into the scimitars and sashes and kind of turban look, then the aesthetic would look nice. If you're more into a kind of voxel or pixel art style of roguelite, then this is definitely not what you're looking for. The polish is nice. I'm running on a 1070. It's running pretty well. I'm getting about 80 to 90 frames a second. For a game like this, I would have enjoyed pushing it a little farther, maybe 120 hertz. I am, of course, 140 hertz PC Master Race. Who isn't? Now let's go over gameplay. I think it's pretty straightforward. You have two major inputs into the world. You have your whip and you have your sword. Your whip is more of like your utility weapon. You can stun enemies, you can pull things, you can activate stuff. What I like the most is you can use it to grab onto hooks in the ceiling and fly through the air in kind of a Prince of Persia style. Now, the right click is just your standard slash and hack. There are no power charges or parries or anything like that. It's just kind of spamming right click to do damage. And that's fine. Most of the enemies are pretty dumb. They're going to be charging at you, exploding, kind of shooting arrows. There's not going to be any sort of in-depth melee combat. Where the variety comes from is from different types of weapons and using it in combination with your environment. So for example, you could see an explosive barrel. You could pull it towards you with a whip it again. You could see an enemy across, pull him into a trap with your whip, turn around, slash an enemy with your sword. There's kind of a 1-2 punch combo system going on with the whip and the sword back and forth and back and forth. And I actually really enjoyed the whip. I would have liked to have seen the animation sped up a little bit or the audio changed more frequently because you do end up using it all the time. And when you're just constantly whipping people over and over, you just feel like an absolute slave driver. Now, as for replayability, I don't know if it's exactly there. What's most enjoyable, in my opinion, about roguelikes are two things. Either combinations that are forming, a la Binding of Isaac, where you have sort of the hope and the dream that you reach some sort of crazy combination of laser eye and puke bomb and fetus, whatever the hell. Or there's the kind of classic rogue sense in which you build a very weak character over time into kind of this powerful, all-killing and consuming, rampaging machine. And what's enjoyable about that is, you're slowly building your armor and your spells and your stats and you have potions and you're kind of exploring and your character builds more depth as you explore. In this type of roguelike, that's not really what I can find. Upgrades don't necessarily synergize with each other as much as they're just different options, right? So you'd have a whip that just whips, you have a whip that whips and then has a little pop of a stun, kind of like a little mini flashbang. You have a whip that then does damage over time. I got a sword that just does more damage. I guess that's a nice upgrade. Then I had a sword that pushed enemies back from me. I guess, that's a little different. But it's hard to see where synergy could form between these upgrades. Things like just extra height in your jump or a little farther speed in your run are nice, and they can make runs feel different from time to time, but it's no Binding of Isaac where you have this kind of almost science experiment of items, seeing how they can combine, seeing how things can multiply off each other, and the magnitude of the effects is really interesting. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed my review of City of Brass. I think there's potential, but ultimately, it's more flash than anything. The brass is shiny, but I think I'm more of a steel guy, if you know what I'm saying. Something with a little bit more substance. Is it worth it? I'd say get it on sale. probably the best option. Full price can be good if this is definitely your type of game. And there are moments, don't get me wrong, I had fun. There are moments where you're kind of going back and forth quickly. The music's amplifying. You have creatures flopping around. Boom, pull one into a trap. Bam, slap one into a spike trap. You feel like you're kind of playing the piano of just hitting people, slapping people, whipping people, pulling people. It's that kind of never-ending back and forth that can make it enjoyable. But ultimately, when I play roguelikes, I'm looking for a more of a slow burn, if that makes sense. And this kind of just has all of its flash front loaded, and it's just not what I'm looking for. Okay, once again, that's City of Brass. Thank you very much.